Good afternoon to one and all, to all the distinguished delegates present here. At the outset, I have already thanked the organizers. So this is the 6-day faculty development program on techno advances in climate change and marine sciences, a key to conservation and sustainability. Now, I have shortened my topic, and here I am going to only talk about climate change and tackling the ethical questions related to climate change. Now, there is a very clear framework which is given to us by the international organizations on how to exactly discuss about the ethical questions. A lot of research work has been done in this area, and in this presentation, I would like to sort of spark your energy levels so that you will be able to understand these ethical levels and actually try to investigate whether these are really issues or not. Now, let us go to the next slide. Yes. Okay. Now, any talk on climate change, now I will not give an introduction to climate change. What is greenhouse effect? What is climate change? Right now in my room, I have switched off the fan. And I am trying to speak with you in a very, very hot room in June summer. And the problem is that the air molecules around me, especially the molecules which are sensitive, which are the greenhouse molecules, they will start to vibrate. And when they vibrate all over me, they will create this heat. And that is why I can feel the heat. And literally after some time, if my camera is good enough, it may even display to you the beads of sweat on my forehead forming. So this, when it happens to the entire planet, it significantly changes the climate. And this climate change, when the wind is blowing and the air currents are differing, the ocean currents are differing, definitely it will create a huge climate change. So we know all these things. We have been listening to all of this explanation for the past 20-25 years. We have been listening to all of these things. Every day we read in the newspaper. Probably because of the COVID outbreak, the climate change issue has been pushed to the backbench for a small period of time. But when you look at the slide in front of you, you can see the grim reality that we have not really escaped climate change. The global temperatures have been rising, despite the fact that the 2-degree rise in temperature is considered to be very, very dangerous. And we have passed through several stages. This is a slide from BBC, and they have taken information from a lot of reliable sources. So this is the global carbon dioxide emissions. So carbon dioxide is one of the most important greenhouse gases. So you can see the graph from 1900 to present, how many billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year has been going on. So you can see from 1900 to 2020, if you see, we have passed through a lot of different situations in human history. The first Spanish flu, which was more devastating than the COVID, which is happening now. Then the Great Depression, which was an economic slowdown, which was a recorded economic slowdown. Then World War II ended probably around 1947, it ended, 1946-47 it ended. And the first and second oil shocks. Then the collapse of the Soviet Union and the financial crash after 2000. So all of these are major world events, and throughout these major events, if you see the graph, you can see that there really is not much big difference in the rise in the level of carbon dioxide, which means that we have really not succeeded in meeting the challenges of global change and climate change. And now actually the sad thing is that we are actually trying to deal with the climate change rather than trying to solve the climate change. Now the scientists are believing that how to predict the climate change instead of how to solve the climate change. What are the models available to predict the climate change? What are the models available to predict the variation in the genetic species or variation in the kind of biodiversity that will occur throughout the world because of this climate change? So these are the kinds of discussions that is slowly shifting the mood of the climate change. Now it is almost like the person is going to die. It is only a matter of when he is going to die. That is the kind of attitude that the world has now adopted to climate change. At least this is my opinion on the matter. You may have a different opinion. That is why I told that in this presentation, I would request you to, give your valuable opinions by probably unmuting your mic and giving your opinion. Then it will be wonderful. Let us try it for this slide. Then I will again close the discussion and I will move on to the next slide. So I would request at least one of the participants to, give their view on this to the audience gathered.
Sir, my name is Bhuvaneshwari.
Welcome, madam.
Sir, this COVID-19 will be improving and reducing the pollution, sir.
Sorry, madam.
It's reducing the pollution nowadays.
Exactly, exactly. And I have put it in my presentation here. Towards the end of the presentation, you will be seeing some slides to that effect. And it is very nice that you have brought it across right in the beginning of the discussion itself. And COVID-19 has not brought down the pollution, but the lockdown has brought down the pollution. I would believe that the lockdown implementation that we have done, that has probably reduced the movement of traffic, particularly the movement of air travel. Aircraft travel has reduced, and aircraft travel is one of the biggest contributors. International transcontinental aeroplanes, so when they are flying, they emit a lot of jet fuel into the atmosphere, and these release a lot of greenhouse gases directly into the atmosphere, and they are very important contributors to global warming. So during COVID-19 crisis, for the past 2 or 3 months, we have been seeing a drastic reduction in air travel, and probably because of that, the air quality itself has improved dramatically. Wonderful, wonderful. Anybody else would like to speak something about this particular slide? What do you think is going on? Will we ever see any reduction in the global carbon dioxide levels? What are your opinions? So we will wait for 10 seconds. Fine. Let me move on to the next slide. So here, this is a compendium of the United Nations Climate Change Conference. So the thing is that for climate change, one of the biggest tools that we have in present in our planet is the ability to discuss amongst ourselves as nations, as people, as individuals. And every 2 years or so, they have this climate conference happening in one part of the world. In New Delhi also, it has been conducted once. So I have prepared a table by myself looking at the data from different sources. And this particular infographic is from the United Nations organization that you see in front of you. It may not be very clear for you here, but the next image, I have zoomed in on one part of the image to show you the kind of stakeholders and the kind of participation that is there. So you can see the kind of stakeholders that are there. You can see researchers are there, mayors are there, business representatives, trade union leaders, students, UN officials, reporters, indigenous person, young person. So they have different kinds of participants happening in the climate change conferences. And you can see that the first conference happened only way back as 1995. So we really started discussing this as nations in 1995. And in this conference, usually what will happen is all the countries, they will start making presentations and they will discuss how to bring down the global levels of carbon dioxide. Now, throughout all these conferences, now they see till 20, COP20, it is written here. So you can see that from 95, 96, 97, 98, almost every year you can see some COP happening there. And some COPs have been dropped also. And you can see the number of participants who have participated in the conference. Now here I will show you the table that I prepared. This may be helpful for you to understand. See, in the first climate change conference happened in the year in Berlin, Germany. And there was not much discussion. They just introduced the topic probably. They had some resolutions passed. But in the second conference in 1996, that is where they formally accepted the Interplanetary Council for Climate Change. That is a very large body. And it was accepted and it was taken into serious discussion. And in the third conference in 97, the Kyoto Protocol was adopted for the greenhouse gas emission, and there began the political problems. Many countries were not willing to adopt to cut their emissions. They were blaming the other countries, or they were even denying the very fact of climate change. So this is something which is still being debated very hotly. And in 2000, COP6, Hague, Netherlands, you can see I have marked it in red ink that they never reached any serious conclusion. And actually, during the end of the conference, they stopped the meeting itself. The meeting was stopped midway, and at that time you could see a lot of protest also. So they stopped the meeting midway. They could not reach any proper conclusions. And finally, because of this, in 2001 in Bonn, Germany, they conducted another conference where countries came together. And here, the clean development mechanism, the CDM mechanism, and carbon credits. Actually, it is very easy to say you have to reduce the greenhouse gas. But why should I reduce the greenhouse gas? Why should I clean your house? If you tell me to clean your house, you should give me some money. Like that, if you are going to clean the environment, there should be some incentive involved. So what is the incentive to the participating industries who are present in the various countries that are beneficiaries to this climate change organization? Why should they reduce the greenhouse gas while compromising on their production? So the governments decided that they should probably give some incentive and some trading mechanisms by which industries, if they are doing any climate reducing activities, climate change reducing activities, if they are able to significantly bring down the kind of carbon emissions that are being happening, then probably you will give them some kind of credits, and they can trade these credits for money just like you're trading stocks in the stock market. So that is how the concept of carbon trading, carbon credits and CDM mechanism was involved. So just like that, you cannot say I have reduced the carbon dioxide emissions. There is a proper mechanism that is called the clean development mechanism. There is a ratifying body for that. And that ratifying body will be, yes, I have to present in full screen. Okay, madam, I will try to do that. I will become completely blind if I put full screen. Let me see if it works. Okay. Ramesh sir, can you still see me, and can you still see the presentation on the full screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Both are there.
The recording has stopped, I think. The recording, sir?
Recording is going on, sir.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will again try to. You are able to see full screen now?
Now it is onto the slides.
Okay.
Now it is onto the
This is
PPT
problem
slide, sir.
Zoom. This is a problem
So you
with
can just
Zoom.
click onto the yes, 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 yes. Now it is fine. Yes, sir.
No, it is not full screen now also.
Now we can.
Somebody's microphone is switched on, and I am able to hear EMI of their family. Yes.
Slide show, sir.
I am able to hear the financial details of somebody's family. So always please be very careful to all participants. When you are listening to webinar, please switch off your microphone. Many family secrets are revealed. So I will continue with the presentation.
Yes, sir. Now
Very sorry for the direct remark. So now I hope you are able to see in the full screen, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. So you see in the carbon credits and the clean development mechanism, after it was introduced, then the conference happened in Morocco, New Delhi. So different kinds of programs were there. But here I have marked one part in yellow, that is in COP10, Buenos Aires, Argentina. That is where other things were not much happening in that particular conference. But it is in that conference that the first program on the ethical dimensions of climate change are actually begun to discuss. See, actually climate change, scientists have discovered changes in the carbon dioxide concentration and the greenhouse concentration, and they have presented their findings in front of the global audience. Now it is up to the global audience to either accept or deny the fact. Usually it is very difficult to deny any scientific fact when it is presented by a scientist. Now, once the doctor is diagnosed the disease and saying that you are suffering from a disease, now it is up to the patient to choose the kind of treatment that they want. And all the patients cannot choose the same kind of treatment. So this is the same problem with countries also. All the countries cannot choose the same kind of treatment for their particular problem. So the program on ethical dimensions of climate change tried to address some of these questions, because these questions were the primary questions which were holding up the climate change talks actually and creating a lot of problems between international dialogue. For example, in 2000, the meeting was suspended midway in Netherlands because of such ethical dilemmas only. So ethics of climate change or climate ethics is extremely, although it is not directly visible, the ethical issues surrounding climate change is extremely important and it should be addressed first. so that we can better accept and better implement the climate change requirements. So finally in 2005, you look when the Kyoto Protocol was signed, it was adopted in 1997. In 2005 only, in the 11th meeting only in Montreal, Canada, it was enforced, it was put into force. And by that time, the validity of the Kyoto Protocol is also almost over. Because you see in 2007, I have marked in the table, end of the first period of Kyoto Protocol. Because after that, the next meeting that took place, they ended up discussing how to restart the Kyoto Protocol and how to extend the Kyoto Protocol, what are the new factors in Kyoto Protocol. So these are the kinds of things that is happening. Now, in 2010, in Capcom, what happened was Mexico, what happened was the Green Climate Fund and the Climate Tech Center, a multi-million-dollar climate tech center, which to be established in different countries. The possibility of that was discussed. And then the next few conferences, not much of discussion. Then you can see that in 2016, the most important problem in Morocco. Now the focus shifted from climate change to the effects of climate change. So first time you are seeing that from 95 to 2016, if you see, all this time in the beginning of the talk, I showed you one graph where the level of carbon dioxide was increasing. And you can see that while these talks are going on, the climate change is also happening simultaneously and the carbon dioxide levels are also increasing simultaneously. Biodiversity is being affected, genetic mutations are happening, people are going left to right, climate is changing, rain is falling, sun is shining, all these things are happening. And you can see that water scarcity has become a very important problem in the world. And that is why in 2016, the major topics of talk was on water scarcity, water cleanliness, and water sustainability, how to make more water available. Because of climate change, drought conditions were increasing, deforestation was increasing, and desertification was on the rise. So now it is very important to restore the water sources of the world, and it has become a global movement now. And we are still struggling with that problem. And at that time, there was a lot of talk that the Third World War will be for water. And now you can see that the World War has already started. And water is indeed a very, very crazy commodity. And it is a very scarce commodity. And in fact, water is slowly becoming very, very expensive. And very soon it will replace crude oil as the most expensive liquid resource available to the planet. Now you can see that in 2019, the next COP meeting had to happen, but because of COVID, it has been postponed to November 2021. So holidays till then, happy holidays. So till then it is happy holidays. So now it is what, June 2020. So it has been postponed to November 2021. God only knows what is going to happen in between that time. And it will give the countries which are already emitting greenhouse gases a very good excuse to continue emitting their greenhouse gases till the level comes down. So these are some of the major problems that we see. I'm going to try to move to the next slide now. I hope it moves. Yes, this is the problem. Yes, can you see the next slide, sir?
Yes, sir.
So this is the structural formation of the climate change. So just I wanted, because many people have this habit of insulting the climate change meetings that are going on. See, people will easily say that what every year they are talking, all these people are gathering in one big conference room and they are talking about climate change, and what information they have shared, or they are simply sitting and talking. But in reality, if you look at the UNFCCC website and the IPCC website, you can see that a lot of serious work and serious organizational work is going on. That is why I wanted to show these slides to you. So probably in the previous slide, I showed you what is the kind of meetings that happen throughout the world. And you can see from 2011 to 2015, actually, so many things have happened. They are having working. It is not easy to make countries work together. So United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Conference of the Parties, COP body was formed. The Kyoto Protocol in 97, Conference of the Parties. This was required to meet annually. This party will meet annually. Subsidiary bodies were established. Ad hoc working groups were established. So these people are actually forming committees and making progress. And they are actually evaluating and they are trying to find out how many programs are there, how many technologies are there, to fight the climate change. And the next set of things you see from 2016 to 2018, if you can see the Conference of Parties, UNFCCC, Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement. So additionally, Paris Agreement has come, and there you can see ad hoc working group of the Paris Agreement group. So they happen approximately twice a year, and they will negotiate in adopting implementation guidelines for the Paris Agreement. Then from 2019 onwards, you can see that how the real formation of the body, how it has matured and formed a new body to discuss the climate change activity. So can you see the next slide, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this is another slide which I have taken from the climate change website. And you can see the organizational structure and how the different protocols which are adopted in each of the climate change conferences actually fit into the entire area. And you can see that the clean development mechanism, all of these things you can see in the bottom, there is an entire executive board for the Clean Development Organization. And this Kyoto Protocol has led to the meeting of the parties of Kyoto Protocol. So that is actually a group of members representing different countries who are actually going to discuss about the Kyoto Protocol. There is a supervisory committee also, and it is not easy to get clean development mechanism approval for any industrial project or for any research project. You need to actually prove under certain guidelines and under certain criteria that you are actually reducing the greenhouse gas emission, and it is a significant emission because otherwise what will happen, somebody will grow some 5 or 6 plants in the terrace of their house and they will say I have reduced global warming, and they will apply for CDM protocol and they will exchange credits for the 5 house plants that they have kept in their house. So although it may seem very funny to you, there are lots of bogus applications being sent to the clean development mechanism, and there needs to be a very strong body which evaluates these applications, and then they come to the industrial site and then they will check whether you are actually doing the things that you are claiming that you are doing, and then only they will certify, yes, this is actually a project which is undergoing the clean development mechanism. So then they will actually become qualified to exchange the carbon credits. That is how many tons of carbon dioxide they have reduced, that they will be able to exchange for reducing their emissions norms or their signatures. Right, let us go to the next slide. I'm sorry, how do I go? Okay. You can see the CDM. I keep saying CDM. CDM has nothing to do with CD. It has to do with clean development. CD means clean development, M means mechanism. So Kyoto Protocol and CMP decision. So initially there was Kyoto Protocol, then there was the clean development mechanism, then there is the carbon credits, and now we are discussing about how to implement all these things. So as you can see, there are some standards, there are procedures, and there are tools, and there are guidelines, and there are supplementary documents. Now I would request all of you after this presentation, you please go and visit the CDM website, and that is why I am repeatedly requesting the host to check whether this meeting is being recorded or not, so that you can watch the video again probably in some platform which they provide, and you can actually note down the websites also. If you are having pen and paper, you can note down these websites. So this is CDM website. You can go and see all the documents that are there. They have explained very neatly what are the different steps. So if you want to do any research project or if you want to implement it in any industry, it is very important that you do it along with these guidelines. So till this point, it is, I'm going to escape the full screen mode. I think I have escaped the full screen mode, and started the video. Yes. I would request any non-sleeping participants to please give your comments on what has been transpired till now and whether you were able to understand what I have been trying to tell all of you, so that we can move into the next dimension of the talk. Would anybody like to talk about what has been going on till now? So if you interact, it will be nice. It will be, because it is a Zoom meeting, it is not one-to-one meeting. So you can try to, Whether you are right or wrong does not matter. Here we are only trying to discuss. So please put in your comments also. Right now there are around 50 of you here listening, apart from the 3 of us who are hosting. So if anybody would like to tell, I have also opened the chat box. So if you would like to type in something also, you can type in case you are hesitant to talk, you can open. So I hope many faculty members are here, and faculty members should speak up. So I am taking a little rest actually from continuous talking, so that I will wait for enough to talk, so that I will take little rest. And then as usual in the classroom, when we ask question, none of the students will answer, then again we will start talking. So that is what usually happens in, at least in our part of the country, this is what happens. So I think I have poked enough people, I have irritated enough people now. And earlier I was telling I am able to hear the EMI details. Now I am telling, yes, COP meeting, CDM. What would you like to know, Deepa madam? You can try unmuting your mic and you can speak up, or you can type it in the chat box also, whichever you feel comfortable. Okay, I think it is 1:45. I should continue with the talk now, as nobody is responding. That is not a problem. We will continue with the talk. And so you can see here that in this particular paper, I have taken from a research paper. It is from Wiley Journal. That journal is Wire Climate Change, and the name of the paper is Global Adaptation Governance and Emerging but Contested Domain. So you can see what are the different levels, the difficulties of implementing these climate change problems. Now again, I'm going to go into the full screen mode. I'm going to stop the audio and I'm going to go to the full screen mode. So probably by now you should be able to see the full screen mode. So you can see that there are different levels: subnational, national, regional, and global levels. So there are 3 different levels here. People have to adopt the different resolutions passed in the conferences. They have to see what are the levels of governance and who are the people who are actually doing these things. So you can see there is at the local level, you can see that for adaptation, there is a heat stress, that is the hot condition, the hot climate that is actually happening. So that is because of several reasons. So at the national level, it is because of a low-lying coastline, and in transboundary between nations, nations share rivers, and between that there is a lot of political, geopolitical problems between countries. So they may not agree exactly on the kind of emissions that are happening from one particular water body. And then there is the exact full-blown public problem of climate-sensitive infectious diseases. So right now we are seeing COVID. COVID is also indirectly related to climate change. Many people have been blaming it on climate change also. And several scientists have actually told that we will actually begin to see more and more diseases which are similar to COVID. And yesterday you might have heard in the news that the WHO Director General has actually told that the second wave of the Ebola virus outbreak has started. And please believe me that Ebola is a much more severe disease, virus, and this is not good news. So the level of governance, you can see there are global level governances. At the global level, you have the UNFCCC and the UNSC, the G20 countries, and the Interplanetary Council on Climate Change. And at the regional level, you have the ASEAN countries. And locally, you have the urban communities, are the people, NGOs, who are actually trying to spread the awareness and create some grassroots level changes in the climate change. Now, who are the people who are actually trying to do this? So you can see that civil society, state businesses, international organizations, they're all trying their level best to do something on all these things. So these are the different challenges in the things. So how do you measure? How do you measure the climate change mechanism that you are actually doing? Is there any way to measure? simply saying that I have created a climate change, is it possible, or do they actually measure these things? So every time measurement is needed, otherwise we will not be able to gauge the amount of climate change efforts that have been done. At least, seeing the graph in the beginning, I showed you a graph where the climate change level has increased like anything. But here you can see that although the levels are increasing, are we doing anything about it? So if you are scolding your child every day I am seeing that you are sitting and studying, but at the end of the day when the exam comes, you are not getting any mark. What the hell are you doing? You can scold your child. But how will the child prove to you that he or she is actually studying well? But unfortunately, because of so many weather conditions, because of the bad mood of the teacher, because of their naughty nature in the classroom, the teacher is not willing to give the marks. How will the student or the children prove to the parent? So the child will take the notebook and they will come and show it to the parent. See Amma, see Appa, I have written all these things. Despite writing all these things, the teacher did not give me any marks. So just like that, at the international level, we need to do certain steps. We need to have certain metrics or certain rubrics to identify whether we have actually done some concrete efforts towards climate change. So general, water, agriculture, ecosystem, forestry, disaster risk reduction, you can see different kinds of parameters for everything. So majorly you can see, for example, in terms of ecosystem, you can see protect X percentage of marine environment by 2020. This is the target given. So what is that X percentage? It is fixed in the different climate conferences. So establish X hectares of marine protected areas. In terms of agriculture, you see, increase the amount of irrigated land to X million hectares. This is a very difficult thing. You cannot simply keep on increasing the agricultural land. People will say they want to build a luxury apartment, or they will say they want to build the industry, and the industrial development of the country will go down. The GDP of the country will go down. The GNP of the nation will go down if you keep doing agriculture. But agriculture also contributes to GDP and GNP. But here, when it finally comes to the negotiation at the table of the climate change conference, it is going to be a matter of who gives how much percentage and who makes how much money. And that those two things are major motivating or driving factors towards deciding which kind of climate change mitigation model is going to be followed. So that is why ethical issues are very, very important. Yes. So now we are entering into the ethical dimension. This paper that I am displaying on the screen right now is from Nature. In 2005, it was published. It is from Jonathan Patz. So it is the paper called Impact of Regional Climate Change on Human Health. So this is the actual first paper which brought into light the real concrete issues that is happening in terms of climate change directly on human health. And if you read this paper, you will come to understand why people are saying that COVID is also a result of climate change. So I have taken some important points from that paper. So usually that paper, it gives you a very good idea. They have actually given a computer simulation of mosquito spread. Actually, we are thinking that COVID is a deadly disease, but silently other deadly diseases are spreading very, very quickly. And one of the most important diseases is malaria and dengue, rabies, Ebola, cholera. All these diseases are spreading. Tuberculosis is still a problem. These diseases are spreading rapidly, and because of climate change, the prevalence of these diseases in countries which are not native to these diseases is also increasing. So we in India till now, we have not seen the incident of Ebola to that much extent. Maybe one case we might have seen, and that might have been quarantined. But we may be at risk of getting a disease outbreak of a disease that is as dangerous as Ebola in India also. And this reason is probably attributed to climate change. Nowadays, we are not able to understand why there are so many cyclones happening. Even the meteorological department is finding very difficult to find different names for the cyclone. Probably they will have some universal code in the future. They will try to name it after all the political leaders or all the actresses, because really they are running out of names. That is the frequency with which cyclones and storms are coming at this time. So here you can see from this paper in Nature that the human disease, cardiovascular mortality, people are dying of heart disease because of heat stress, and respiratory illness, lot of cases of bronchitis, almost every single person, even many of you, at least now, right now, there are 50 of you listening in this conference, and at least 10% or 15% of these people will be suffering from some kind of bronchitis or breathing problem. And this is not because you are not doing exercise every day or not doing pranayama or listening to Jaggi Vasudeva. It is not because of that. It is because of the kind of particulate matter which is present in the atmosphere, the heavy concentration of particulate matter which is present. That is the fundamental reason why we are increasingly suffering from respiratory ailments, allergies of the lungs. All of these problems are coming because of this. You see, a few days ago, before the COVID incident happened, there was the big controversy of smog. Smog is a combination of fog and smoke. There is a very big controversy of smog happening in Delhi, particularly in the winter seasons, that is in the December season. And this made breathing and visibility very, very difficult. Aircrafts had to be cancelled because of the difficulty in visibility. People started suffering from respiratory illnesses. Now you can see that as the climate change goes on increasing, more and more of these problems are going to come. And you can see that there is an altered transmission of infectious diseases, and there is malnutrition. So it is not undernutrition, please understand. There is a lot of food, but even though there is a lot of food, there is a lot of malnutrition which is happening. Now, what is the difference between malnutrition and undernutrition? Malnutrition means every day if I give you curd rice, then you will become malnourished because you are going to receive the same kind of nutrition every day. So if I have to give you at least different kinds of food, at least a full-blown chicken biryani I should give you every day. So chicken biryani will contain protein, it will contain carbohydrate, it will contain propionic acid from the raita, it will contain egg, it will contain a lot of different things. Or fully vegetarian food, full vegetarian thali I should give you. Something which contains all the different elements necessary for the basic metabolic functioning of the body. Then only you will be nourished, otherwise you will be malnourished. So malnutrition is going to increase a lot because of this climate change, because different biodiversity is seriously getting affected. And biodiversity, when it is getting affected, it is going to reduce crop diversity. And when crop diversity reduces, we will have fewer and fewer crops to grow as crops. So now there are two or three kinds of crops: food crops, cash crops, and livestock crops. And food crops, when they reduce in the diversity, they will also reduce in the kind of nutritional diversity that we have for the food. And therefore, crop failure, which I have mentioned in the last, crop failure is very, very important. And it is becoming more and more recurrent nowadays. And you can see that these issues are being dealt with every day. You can see all these things happening. I have given you some photographs. I am showing some photographs of the things that are happening in India Today magazine, Times magazine, Science magazine. That drought conditions, desertification conditions, and smog conditions. So these are the different problems that are happening regularly. Now, something which is a favorite topic nowadays for most people because of climate change, that is the locust menace. The locust menace which is happening currently in Rajasthan. Previously in India, we did not even hear about these things. We were prepared. Of course, the government of India is always prepared for these things. There is a separate department for plant protection and quarantine, and minor incidences were there, but it's not at a major level. So now you see the weather system in the Indian Ocean largely depends on a simple but unpredictable national phenomenon called the Indian Ocean Dipole. So because of the variation in this just by 2 degrees Celsius, it is going to become worse and worse, it seems. And the Indian Ocean is an influencer of climatic conditions as far as Africa. So from Africa, the locust is going to come all the way to India through its conventional route. So Locust Airways is going to populate India very soon. And domestic service has also started within India because they are actively breeding, and they might spread because the climate is favoring that spread. And the spread of the locust, if it coincides with the harvesting season, then God only can save us. Because if the harvesting season is over and then the locust is coming, then no problem. You can say hello to the locust and you can make biryani out of the locust. But if the locust is before the harvesting, when the crops are ready to harvest, then if the locust is coming and eating the crops, then it is no more biryani. It is going to be hell only for the farmers. And there will be very big shortage of food, and we will have to import food from other countries. This is the seriousness of the locust menace. Now you can see another papers in National Geographic, and this is a little bit recent paper. And here you can see the plague of locust has descended on East Africa. Climate change may yet to be blamed. So see, in any news article, if you read on climate change, you can find out that nobody will directly blame climate change as the cause of any particular reason. They will say it may be because of climate change. It may be because of climate change. But in the face of the matter, climate change is a very serious issue, and it is a indirect or in many cases a direct reference to climate change which is happening. So you can see in 2018, researchers found if the planet warms just 1.5 degrees, the world would pass within the next decade. Extreme positive Indian dipole phases could still double. So you can see here, whether that will lead to more plague of locusts is still an open question, but it is a worrying possibility. I would say it is a very serious possibility. So these are the different dimensions of the program on ethical dimensions on climate change, which I had shown you previously in the list of conferences. And these are the different ethical questions that they asked. Now, one by one, I want to show you the ethical questions. So these are the 8 different parameters which was released in the white paper on the ethical dimensions of climate change. And see, responsibility for damages, atmospheric damage. So we can see one by one. Responsibility for damage. Who is ethically responsible for the consequences of climate change? Who is responsible? Whom should we blame? Whether the countries who are preparing for or responding for climate change. Another question. What ethical principles should guide the choice of specific climate change policy objectives? So, should it be guided by any ethical principles? That is one question. Next question. You see, what ethical principles should guide the allocation of responsibility among the people, organizations, and governments at all levels to prevent ethically intolerable practices? Now, another one. What is the ethical significance of the need to make climate change decisions in the face of scientific uncertainty? So, scientific uncertainty means people are still not clear whether climate change is actually causing all these problems. People are still ready to debate that climate change is something which is imaginary. And for such people, this uncertainty in policy making is going to be a serious hindrance, because in many ways, policy making is directly related to political decision. And the political status of the politicians will directly relate, in some countries, related to climate change standpoints. So cost to national economies. Is there a commonly used justification of cost to a national economy for delaying or minimizing actions to reduce the threat of climate change ethically justified? So in different countries, the cost of doing climate change will be different in different countries. That is why the clean development mechanism also has been introduced. So clean development mechanism means some country, some company in the USA can actually invest in a climate change reducing activity in India and claim carbon credits for that. And when they buy the carbon credits from the project which is being done in India at a lower cost, they will get the credits and they will exchange it in the international community to lower their penalty for emitting greenhouse gas. Now, another question is the commonly used justification for delaying or minimizing climate change? Need not act until all agree on this justified. So this is like something like I am asking question to the audience here, the esteemed delegates who are present in this particular conference here. In between, I tried to stop. In between, 2 times I tried to stop. One madam was kind enough to ask one doubt. And the second time I stopped, nobody asked any doubt. So this is not something which is to be blamed on the people. See, this is basic human nature that let the other fellow talk first. Somebody should open their mouth. Then I will see whether I want to talk or not. Or what this fellow is speaking, I am not able to understand. Let everybody speak, let him complete speaking. Then I will gather my thoughts and then I will answer. But when countries are taking this decision, this is at the individual level I am saying. But when countries are taking this decision, it will take several years to respond. And when it takes several years, every year the temperature is also increasing. The pollution levels are also increasing. The cyclone is also increasing. So that is the urgency of climate ethics or climate change. So here, potential new technologies is the commonly used justification for delaying or minimizing climate change until less costly technologies are invented ethically justified. So this is like saying that tomorrow I will get, after 50 years, a magic machine will be invented which will suck out all the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So we can emit whatever pollution we want till 50 years. So that is the kind of justification that is going on, and that is the kind of eye masking that is going on in the climate change negotiations. So is it ethical to wait for new technologies till it comes? That is the question. Procedural fairness. What principles of procedural justice should be followed to assure fair representation in climate change decision making? Now, climate change and climate justice. These are two different things. Climate change, climate ethics, and climate justice. So climate justice means I have heard enough of your talk about the climate change. I have had enough about your talk about rising sea levels. I have had enough of everything. Please stop it immediately, or the next generation will not be able to live in a livable planet anymore. Already you are seeing COVID has happened. Because of COVID, all the schools and colleges are shut down. Students are very happy. Teachers are very sad because double the effort we have to put in organizing online classes and the extra stress of organizing all these online conferences. Now students are happily relaxing in the chairs. I'm not saying all the students, but many students have found ingenious ways of not attending the online session while gathering the attendance. So full attendance also given to all of them. So happily they are enjoying. But at the bottom line, what is actually happening? People are losing the rights to their basic rights to education. And when people are losing basic rights to education, it is a justice problem. It is a problem of international justice. When a child is being denied the rights to education because of some disease condition, and this disease condition, what is the probable cause of this disease condition? The probable cause of this disease condition may be because of climate change. And if climate change is to be blamed for this particular disease outbreak, then it is a matter of climate justice. Then if you are going to do climate justice, then you have to find out the culprits. Who are the countries, or who are the organizations, or who are the industries who are emitting the maximum amount of greenhouse gas into the atmosphere. So once you do this, then there is going to be very serious problems. And this young lady whose photo I have shown you in the slide here, her name is Greta Thunberg. One day she stopped going to school. So you know her story, or most of you would be knowing her story in social media. And now she is very famous. She has got a lot of awards, but she's a very young lady who says that how will I go to school if the climate change is happening so seriously? People should not go. And she has even recently started a movement called No Fly Movement, which means unwantedly you fly to why you are having. Like for example, from Chennai to Thoothukudi, if you want aeroplane, means what is the logic in that? Or from Chennai to Trichy, 3 hours you can travel by car, and by train also you can travel. Why you want to travel by aircraft, which releases a higher amount of greenhouse gas? Unless absolutely necessary, please reduce air travel. That is what she says. And whatever she says is finding a lot of voice among politicians. In the right side, I have taken some excerpts from the paragraphs, and you can see what different politicians are saying. For example, Britain's Secretary of the Environment, Michael Gove, said, "When I listen to you, I feel great admiration, but also responsibility and guilt." So this is one way of activism or climate justice seeking. So this is the general attitude towards climate change talks given by artists or people. But this may not be entirely true. This first sculpture that you see, as the people are talking, the sea levels are rising and they're drowning them. And this is from an artist called Isaac. So he has been doing these sculptures, and it is very famous, and we can easily forward this in WhatsApp or Facebook. But the bottom line is actually people are not wasting their time in talking. Every time there is a climate conference, there are concrete measures which are put and concrete guidelines which are laid down to ensure that whatever projects are being done towards climate change are actually happening, and technologies are actually being recognized for the reduction of climate change. Now it is actually possible to have a repository of measurement techniques and climate change reduction techniques, and this is stored in a database, and we can actually access what kind of technologies are available for climate change reduction. Right. So that brings me almost to the end of the presentation, where I would like to show you our own efforts, are very ingenious efforts. Sometimes you don't need very sophisticated technologies to do climate change mitigation. And you can see the person in the bottom left is very, very famous. Only he was actually doing a lot of work for several years, but he became famous only after the movie Three Idiots, because the character played by Amir Khan or by our own Tamil Nadu, in Tamil Nadu it was played by Vijay, So you can see that his name is Shri Sonam Wangchuk. He's a teacher. He's an engineer by profession, and he's running his own school in Ladakh, which is very, very innovative. And he and his school students actually did this very tall structure you can see in the right side. This is actually invented by him. It is called Ice Stupa. Now, if you look very closely at the statue, sir, can you see my mouse pointer? Ramesh sir? Ramesh sir also went to sleep. Hello?
Sir, yes, your mouse pointer is visible.
Thank you, sir. So the mouse pointer, you can see at the top, I'm rotating the mouse here. That is a small tube which is emitting water. So what happens at a very height, maybe probably at this mountain, which is at a taller level than this area, they will put a pipe and they will extend the pipe all the way to the bottom here. So from there, the water will be poured. Some water source will be there. They'll pour the water from here and they will pump it. They'll actually spray it on the top. So what is happening is, because it is a very frozen environment all around, as soon as the water enters into the atmosphere, it will get frozen. And this is actually a frozen glacier. It is an ice stupa, like an ice pillar. So what is happening is climate change activities were not happening in Ladakh, but because of climate change activities, anthropogenic activities elsewhere in the world, Ladakh faced a lot of melting of the ice caps, and glaciers started melting. Because the glaciers receded, there was very little water available for agriculture in these areas. So in order to combat this, he started making these ice stupas. So once this frozen mountain was made, you can see in the summer, this will slowly start melting, and that will provide a lot of water for the irrigation for doing the agriculture. So this is a very ingenious method, not much of technology involved, but it is extremely effective in fighting effects of climate change. Now, this is our one in Tamil Nadu. He is very famous. Dr. Bharati is the director of Gromor Biotech Limited in Tamil Nadu. And he has actually found a new variety. Biotechnology people may be interested in this. He has actually found a new variety of bamboo called Bima bamboo. So it is a bigger variety of bamboo. You can see in the top side picture the difference between Bima bamboo and wild bamboo. And growing plantations or forestry or agroforestry or climate forestry is a very important step towards mitigating carbon dioxide levels. And you can see here, bamboo absorbs carbon dioxide and releases oxygen into the atmosphere 3 to 4 times higher than any trees. So this is actually another movement that he has started. Not only can the bamboo later be harvested for making several useful products, but during its period of growth, it will create a lot of reduction in the climate change effects. Carbon dioxide sequestration. Some other methods will be like one another method which is very popular in India is the biogas event. So even biogas, the problem is methane by itself is a greenhouse gas. So we cannot completely say that biogas is a 100% climate mitigating technology, but it is one of the technologies we have. For example, if you see, look at UK, this is a slide from BBC on some of the strategies. So you can see electric revolution, decarbonization, and lifestyle changes. So you can see the use of hydrogen gas, which produces no carbon dioxide emissions for heating and transport. They use natural gas, but with carbon capture technology and storage. They use biomethane from waste or biomass and biofuels directly. But the problem is, if you are going to burn the wood, that also creates some greenhouse gas problems. So once again, I am going to show you the slide which I showed you in the beginning of the presentation. This is the grim reality that we are facing. The temperature has more or less been increasing despite our best efforts. And now people are talking about what we should do. Something has become stuck here. Okay. On what we should do to adapt to the climate change rather than to prevent the climate change. But still it is not late, because you see here the corona impact. So this is the Yamuna River. And before and after pictures were released by Planet Custodian. There is a website called Planet Custodian. They released this very famous photograph. And you can see the kind of difference happening here. On the left side, you can see the froth because of the pollution from the industry. And after the lockdown, during the lockdown period, you can see how clean the water has become because of reduction in the amount of influx into the water. So definitely, if you leave the environment alone for some time, small changes like this can be seen in the planet. And I will provide an interesting parallel. Let me see if it goes to the next slide. Yes. Okay. This is a very famous photograph from NASA on Wuhan, where it all began. So you can see top and bottom photographs and how much the pollution level has dropped. Satellite images you can see January 1 to 20, January 1 to 20. That is in 2019 and this is in 2020. So you can see the different periods, how much the pollution has dropped. And this pollution level is directly to do with the nitrous oxide levels, NO2 levels. This is one of the most important greenhouse gases. And you can see how much difference the lockdown has brought in, how much reduction in the human activities has brought in. So this creates an interesting parallel. So anthropogenic activities are actually a significant contributor to climate change. It might be possible, it might not be possible, it might be acceptable, it might not be acceptable. But you see, these are some evidences or these are some scientific data that prove that human beings are in fact the cause of climate change, and we must hurry and we must do something about it. So what can we do? Should we have climate lockdown? Like Corona lockdown, shall we have a 1 month lockdown in different parts of the world for different countries, so that the climate is allowed to restore to its natural condition little? Because now we have seen the success of Corona lockdown. So if you do this Corona lockdown, no technology involved, no? We don't have any technology, just you have to implement with stopping the people, making the people stay at home. Like that, if we do this shutting down of the industry and the houses for some time, then climate also will get restored. So shall we have climate lockdowns in the future? So it involves technology, but will we do it? That is a big question. Next question, what technology should we embrace? So I have shown you some technologies like the ice stupa, Bima bamboo, and biogas, where very little technological intervention is there, only ingenious ideas are there, not much sophistication is there, but the desired effect is produced. So this actually, what kind of technologies we should embrace, that is a very important question. So technology imbalance across the countries, these face a lot of ethical challenges. So that brings you towards the end of my talk, and I want to thank all the people who have been listening in. And like Radio Mirchi, I have been talking continuously, and now I have switched back my video. And I think all of you have listened, are coming back from different places and coming back to the end of the webinar. So the webinar is now open to the questions, if there is still time for questions. I am very sorry, sir, I took too much time. I took 15 minutes extra.
Not at all a problem, Dr. Manoj. It was indeed an informative lecture.
Thank you very much,
You have
sir.
given a clear picture of what climate change does and what are the ethical issues related to the climate change, and it was really interesting. And that is seen from the feedback from the participants also through the chat box. You would have seen that.
Oh, I will see, sir. I'll open and see, sir. 1 minute, sir.
Yeah. So people are really interested in your lecture, and it was quite a bit informative.
Wonderful, sir. If
And
anybody
let
would
us
like
wait
to
for
ask anything, yes, sir.
Yeah, let us wait for a few more questions. Maybe
Okay,
through
sir.
chat or when they unmute the mic.
Okay, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Mahita. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
Sir, it is said that due to Corona lockdown for just 2 months, the ozone layer is completely healed. Is it really true, sir? Is it possible? Because we have been polluting the environment for such a long period. Just by a lockdown of 2 months, it is said that it is healed. I have read it in paper. Is it really true, sir? Is it possible?
Okay, madam. First of all, I would like to ask you one question. Since you have asked me a very interesting question, I would like to ask you an interesting question. What is the cause of the ozone hole?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why ozone hole is caused? Do you know?
Carbon dioxide emission.
Is there a hole like a mada, like a meduvada in the middle? There is a hole. Is it like that, or because of the absence or the reduced concentration of certain gases in the atmosphere?
Carbon dioxide emission, greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere.
Okay, very good, very good. So you see, this is where we should be very careful in interpreting the actual cause of the ozone hole restoration. See, even before this coronavirus lockdown, there were incidences of ozone hole. Good, very good, very good. So, see, even before the coronavirus lockdown, what happened was there were cases of the ozone hole being restored. But now, at present, we cannot directly correlate the COVID lockdown to the restoration of the ozone hole. The ozone hole problem is still very much present. Actually, it is easily measured from the Arctic and the Antarctic research stations. So, some compliments can be given to the COVID lockdown, but not entirely, because there are several other parameters in place. Because you see, from 95 onwards, the climate change negotiations have been happening. So, although the temperature has been increasing, the temperature is a side effect, it will increase continuously, but the number of mitigation efforts by different countries across the world has also been increasing simultaneously. So, for example, if you see in 95, they were using chlorofluorocarbons, heavy use of chlorofluorocarbons, CFC. But now you see CFC is almost entirely banned, except for a few industrial processes, unit process. CFC is almost completely banned. So that may be the actual cause for the ozone hole restoration. So, of course, in the media, you will hear lots of things, but as a scientist or as an engineer or as a student, you must clearly try to critically examine the actual cause of reduction. So, in this talk, I have told you from 95 onwards, we are doing a lot of efforts. So, probably because of that effort, that has borne fruit and now it is accelerating. I have completed answering your question. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Manoj. Let us wait for a few more.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Mahendra Mani from Islamia College, Vaniyambadi, sir.
Wonderful to meet you, sir. Please tell me, sir.
Sir, as last slide, you asking two questions, whether we needed new technology. My answer is
Yes,
no need of new technology, sir. Those traditional days, we have no other technology, but we have peaceful life without any disease and disorder like COVID-19, other things. But technology improves methane gas, so many other things that take out. Deforestation leads to this kind of issues nowadays. As you said, the second question, lockdown, whether we need it. Yes, of course. During lockdown, so many pollutants are reduced. As in Delhi, they are doing so many rules and regulations. Alternate days, they are using some vehicles, other things. Such a way that we can change the rules, we can control the pollutant at all, sir. And also, we are always blaming the government, the people, politicians, always, but no one takes their own responsibility to control their pollutant. Even they don't try to plant a single tree in front of their house, sir.
Correct, sir.
There's no need of technology, sir. Just we go back to traditional, we planting a trees, each and every individual to make their own places, a single plant. As Nammalwar, do you know, sir, Nammalwar?
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
This is a role model for us. He's proven that.
Yes, sir.
Proven that because of the fertilizer chemical affect the land, but he used traditional olden days in astrology. He proves he cultivated so many wasted land into development of green plants at all, sir. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Wonderful comments, sir. Yes, sir.
Manoj sir, can you see your chat box? There were a few questions raised in that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Recently, I completed latest question I'll read or the past question I'll read.
Maybe 2-3 questions I think we have missed in the chat box.
Any patent application available on CO2 reduction using biological material in India? If you say yes, what are the methods being used in Indian industry? Because in your presentation, you mentioned about 4-gas. I did not mention about 4-gas. I mentioned about biogas. So please explain on it. Okay, sir. Ranjit sir has asked this question. Sir, actually there are lots of patent applications on CO2 reduction. See, even in the biogas generation itself, there is a process called carbon dioxide scrubbing technology. So scrubber is there. That is for scrubbing of the carbon dioxide, which will directly remove the carbon dioxide in the entire process. And hydrogen sulfide scrubbing process is there. So you see, biogas, when you get it, 50 to 60% is methane. And methane is the gas which is why biogas is so valuable. It's the only gas which can burn. The other gases are actually not needed. So if you are removing the other gases from the equation, you will get more of burnable gas and the process will become more and more efficient. So lots and lots of technologies. If you go to IPTO website, Indian Patent and Trademark Office website, and you search for the patent, if you do a prior art search, then you will get lots of technologies on carbon dioxide sequestration technologies. Search for carbon dioxide sequestration technologies, mitigation technologies. So a lot of scrubbing technologies you will get. You will get technologies like pressure swing adsorption technology. So many technologies are available, and some many technologies use biological material also. So traditional knowledge is also used, and modern knowledge is also used. Composite materials are used for climate change reduction, or carbon dioxide reduction. Basically, in any emission, any industrial emission or any agricultural emission or any emission, if you are able to reduce the amount of any greenhouse gas component in direct or indirect form, then that particular process or the method which you use is actually called as a technology. So in that sense, if you are doing the search, then you will come across lots of things. So I hope I have explained it properly to you. I will move on to the next question from Dr. P. Rajasulochana. Sir, recently I completed one work with the combination of algae and wastewater. Got good result. But at the same time using viruses to treat wastewater. Please suggest further. Madam, I am not aware of how you are using viruses to treat the wastewater. Are you removing the virus from the wastewater? Then it is a very good thing. The health condition of the emitted water will be naturally increasing. But I do not know what is the bioremediating effect of the virus. Probably one of the most important viruses which do this, how they will do this is, in the river Ganga, everybody will take path in Ganga river because it is considered very holy. But recently, not recently, very long back, scientists along the Ganga river, they found that they have a very high concentration of bacteriophages. Bacteriophages are viruses which will feed on other bacteria. So infectious bacteria which are released by the dead bodies which are thrown into the river or by feed. So in that way, the wastewater is being treated by the virus. So if you are doing this algae work, algal work is actually the future of climate change sequestration. The algal fuel, algal work, all that is considered as the future of carbon dioxide sequestration. So please go ahead with that. But also, I would request you to please see the trends that are being followed in the algae. Just like that, using algae is not important, because when we take algae, we will take the species which are referred in the literature. But we should choose algal species which are indigenous to our own country. And we should try to do genetic engineering on those algal species to see if we can increase their uptake of certain materials which will reduce the sequestration. Okay. So wonderful. Thank you so much for that question. What are the changes in marine environment observed during this lockdown period? Lockdown is still going on in India. We are in lockdown 5. So probably in the next few conferences that you will attend in any biotechnology department or in any university, there will be at least 10 or 15 papers presented by different people on the changes in the marine environment because of this lockdown period. Because you see all over in the coastal areas and in the brackish water area, Professor Yuvraj will know much more on this than me because he's a marine expert. So you can see people have already installed lots of sensors, environmental sensors, lots of sensors are there to monitor the pH, to monitor the dissolved oxygen, to monitor the temperature. So all of this data is currently being collected, and they will definitely correlate the data which is coming before the lockdown period and data which is coming after the lockdown period, and definitely they will release lots of papers on this. So in the coming few months, you will see, I have shown only one photograph in my presentation, but definitely if you keep watching the scientific literature, you will see lots of papers which are going to be published in this particular aspect. Actually, if you want to write some good papers also, this is a very interesting topic to write on it. You can even write some good review papers, or if you are having access to data from sensors, if you belong to some department like Institute of Ocean Management from Anna University, if you have access to any such data set, you can easily, actually some data sets are available open source in the internet also. So if you are able to do some data analysis on this, then it will be very, very useful. I think I have answered that question also. So I don't other questions, Dr. Rajaslojana madam has told, thank you, nice explanation, thank you madam. So anybody else wants to ask anything, they can ask, or sir can proceed further.
Yes, sir. I think we can close it here.
Yes, sir.
So it was a very nice presentation and a good interaction as well. So thank you, Manu sir, for again making yourself present for this FTP program. And we definitely hope we'll meet once again, maybe in another topic with another time. So thank you so much for coming,
Definitely.
sir.